Hello everyone, I am your mathematics guide Subhankar Datta, and today I will teach you about differentiation. First we will have to learn what is a differentiation. It is the instantaneous rate of change of a function with respect to a variable, defining how a quantity changes at some specific moment, that is called differentiation. So, and it is denoted by dy dx. Here x is called the independent variable and y is called the dependent variable. So what is a independent variable and what is a independent variable? Now we will have to learn that. So let us suppose a linear equation y is equals to x plus 5. If we put some value, let us suppose x is equals to 1, then y is equals to 1 plus 5, that is 6. If we put x is equals to 3, then y is equals to 3 plus 5, that is 8. It is clear that for some specific value of x, we can get a different value of y. Let us suppose here x is 3, y is 8. So we can say that for some specific value of x, we can get a different value of y. So it is clear that x is independent and y is dependent. Also, we can denote the differentiation as d of y, y1x, f dash x or y dash x. In this way also we can denote the differentiation. It is discovered by Sir Isaac Newton and it is developed by Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Now we will have to learn about what is differentiation and what is derivative. So differentiation is the process and derivative is the result. For an example, if we want to bake a cake, that means if we want to prepare a cake, we have to bake the cake or we have to bake the ingredients of the cake. So the baking is the process and the cake is the result. So the baking is called the differentiation and the cake, which is the final result, that is called the derivative. Geometrically we can represent that in such a way. Let us suppose a coordinate, that is xy coordinate. Let us suppose a function. What is the name of the function? Y equals to f of x. Let us suppose this point P is on the function and the coordinate of P is x comma f of x. If we draw a perpendicular from that coordinate on x axis, we can get a point and the name of the point is x. This is the positive side of the point x and this is the negative side of the point x. Let us suppose at a distance h, the distance is h, at some distance h, the name of the point is x plus h. If we draw like this, we can get another point on that function. The name of the point is q x plus h f of x plus h. Now geometrically it is represented as the tangent of a function. Differentiation or derivative is nothing but the tangent of a function. Let us suppose we can draw a tangent here. This is the tangent. This is nothing but the tangent. Now for any 2 point, if we calculate the distance of any 2 point on a coordinate plane, what will be the coordinate? If you want to calculate the distance of any 2 points on a coordinate plane like A and B, the coordinate of A is x1 comma y1 and the coordinate is x2 comma y2. If we join that line and it is denoted by geometrically it is denoted by the slope of the tangent, and that line slope is, the slope of the line is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And for the slope is here, if you want to slope of the tangent, so we can write like this: slope of the tangent. What is the slope of the tangent? That is y2 means, let us suppose this is compared as y2. Let us suppose this is compared as y2, this is x2, and this is x1, and this is y1. So here y2 is f of x plus h, and after that minus is there, so we have to give minus. Minus what? y1 means f of x divided by x2 minus x1. x2 means here x plus h minus x1 means x. Now if we reduce that length, that h length, if you reduce that length, that 2 points will collide. If the 2 points collide, then we can get a single point here, then we can draw a tangent at that point. So we have to do limit on that point. So limit h tends to 0. So this is called the first principle of derivative. This is called first principle of derivative or delta method, or ab initio method, ab initio method, or Newtonian's differentiation. Newtonian's differentiation. So this is first principle of derivative, or we can say first principle of. Now we can say that limit h tends to 0, f of x plus h minus f of x divided by, if we calculate that part, we can get h. So that final form is called the first principle of derivative, or delta method, or ab initio method, or Newtonian's differentiation. We can solve it in another way. Let us suppose if we draw a coordinate like that, if we draw a function y equals to f of x, let us suppose this is the point, that point is P, x1 comma or x comma f of x, and that point's coordinate is q, x plus h comma f of x plus h. Let us suppose this is the coordinate of the point. If we draw a secant connecting that 2 points, that is secant connected that 2 points, then we can draw a perpendicular at x axis. That point, the coordinate of the point is x, and if we draw a perpendicular one there, we can get another point, that is x plus h. Now we can join that two. The total length is nothing but f of x plus h, and that length is nothing but f of x. So we can calculate that small length. That small length is x of x plus h minus f of x. And if we want to calculate that length, that is nothing but x plus h minus x. Now we know what is tan theta. That is called a right angle triangle. If we want to calculate tan theta, that means tangent. Tangent is nothing but perpendicular divided by base. What is the perpendicular here? F of x plus h minus f of x divided by x plus h minus x, that is nothing but h. If we reduce that length, that means from that slope, if we reduce that length, that slope will, that 2 points will collide and that 2 point will create a single point. Then we can draw a tangent instead of that secant. So we can say limit h tends to 0, f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. In that way we can also find out the slope of the tangent, that means the differentiation. So this is the principle, that this is the basic principle of differentiation. In that way we can calculate the derivative. If we calculate the differentiation, we can calculate the derivative. Now using first principle method of derivative, we will have to calculate the derivative of sin x. Let us suppose f of x equals to sin x. So f of x plus h is sin of x plus h. Now using first principle method or using first principle method of derivative, we can write limit h tends to 0. What is the first principle method of derivative? F of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. After that we can write like this, limit h tends to 0. F of x plus h means sin of x plus h minus f of x means sin of x divided by h. Also we know that it looks like sin c minus sin d formula. Sin c minus sin d formula. What is the formula of sin c minus sin d? That is 2 cos c plus d by 2 into sin c minus d by 2. If we apply that formula here, we can get limit h tends to 0, that is 2 cos, here c means that and d means x, that means x plus h plus x divided by 2 into sin x plus h minus x divided by 2 divided by h. The next line is that limit h tends to 0, 2 cos x plus x is 2h, 2x by 2 is x plus h by 2 into sin of x minus x cancel out, only h by 2 will remain divided by h. Now the next line is like that, we can write the next line here, that is limit h tends to 0, that 2 we will have to write there, that means cos of x plus h by 2 into sin of h by 2 divided by h by 2. In that way you can write. Now the next line will be like that, using limit formula we can get cos of x plus h by 2 into limit h by 2 tends to 0. If h tends to 0, then we can say h by 2 tends to 0 also. Sin of h by 2 divided by h by 2. So now if we put h equals to 0 here, that means it becomes cos of x plus 0 by 2 into that part. We know limit x tends to 0, sin x divided by x is equals to 1. Here instead of x, h by 2 is there, so that part will become 1 and that will become cos of x. So the final answer is cos of x. In that way we can calculate using first principle method of derivative, d dx of sin x is cos x. So we can write d dx of sin x equals to cos x. In that way we can calculate the other trigonometric functions. Thank you.